What's up, girlfriends? Welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast, our year of conversations. Can you believe that this is our 50th conversation? Like 50 conversations so far, and they all have been absolutely amazing. I say this every week, and I absolutely mean it, that I am talking to some of the most amazing women, some of the most purpose women, if I can say that, some of the most powerful women in the faith, just in their areas of work. And today is no different. I am talking to the beautiful and lovely Miss Kelly Dione Butler. Kelly is the founder of Live on Purpose, with the tagline, Your Purpose is My Passion. I'm sure we're going to talk more about that. She's the author of The Power of Her, and she's a visionary of Empower Her Conference and the Purpose Encounter. You can learn more about Kelly on her website at kellybutler.org. Today, we're going to talk all about purpose. Kelly, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast.
Listen, I'm so excited to be here. I feel so honored to be a part of Girlfriend Therapy. I'm super,
Amen.
super ready for this conversation today.
Amen. Amen. And I love when there are organizations that share, I think the heartbeat of Girlfriend Therapy, which is really empowering women, meeting women where they are, encouraging them in a faith. So I'm so excited to talk to you and to talk about Empower Her and all the wonderful stuff that you're doing. A newly author.
Yeah,
Congratulations to that.
thank you so
Super
much.
excited. Yes, as a writer, I'm all about the authors and writers. So congratulations in that space. Um,
Thank you.
but I know we'll talk more about that, and I'm interested to know what your book is about. And I think we'll get there. But I
Mhm.
want to kick off the conversation, as we think about purpose and talk about purpose. Just want to kick off the conversation. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Kelly Dion Butler. I usually go by Kelly Dion Butler, my full name, because I want to
Love
show
it.
the full expression of who I am.
Love it.
And so I am from Oklahoma City. I have been here all my life. I thought about escaping a couple of times, but I am still here. And I've literally been here all my life. And I am the youngest of five children.
Wow.
Uh, and so my mom, she passed away in 2010, but my dad is still here and doing his thing. And so I've been just really uh, rediscovering me and walking in the power of my purpose and
Amen.
all of that. And so that's really where it stems from. My purpose is, or your purpose is my passion. Like I want people to know who they are. And so I got the opportunity to found an organization called Live on Purpose. And so Live on Purpose actually started from a magazine. I don't know if you know
Mm.
Paula McDade, but she's an editor in chief, and she published a magazine that I got to be a part of. And Live on Purpose was actually my story. And so
Wow.
it turned in from a story to a brand, and then it became my nonprofit organization. And so my call, my mission, my personal mission, and for the organization is to revive and to empower her how to win at living her best life. And so I get to do that through conferences, classes, and mentorship. And so
Amen.
I'm super, super excited just to be here and chat it up with you today. And so all things purpose is my thing. So
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I love, because a lot of times people talk about purpose, but I love how you came to find it. You said that it was your purpose, and then it was your story, then it became your ministry, which in turn became your purpose. So tell me about the story. Like, how was it your story turned into the ministry part?
well, so I was born premature, right? And so my eyes, the corneas in both of my eyes didn't fully develop. And so I really struggled through life, as a kid, as a teenager, and more so as an adult because I had these limitations that came along with my life. And
Mm.
so with my corneas not fully developing, my eyes are sensitive to sunlight. I'm also colorblind. And so I had like these struggles. And then just my vision alone, I don't have 20/20 vision, right?
Right.
And so I have these struggles. And so for a long time, just, through high school, through elementary school, through my adulthood, really when I became an adult is really when I really struggled because now I have to do life on my own.
Mm.
As a younger person, my mom, had my siblings and things like that help me. And so but when I became an adult, everybody has their own life, right? And so for me, I had to struggle and trying to figure out how would I get from A to B? How would I get to work? And how would I do this? And how would I, because I don't drive. And so I literally had to struggle. And so live on purpose really came from me not living, right? So I really did not
I
live
love
life.
that.
Like at one point, I really like got to a point where I got tired of asking people because, and I recently learned this about myself through therapy, right?
Right.
I recently learned this about myself that I struggle with rejection. And it all
Mm,
stemmed from just people telling me no, that they couldn't take me or no, that they couldn't do it. And so my life felt stuck. I felt like I didn't have any progress. So at one point in my life, I began to just sit at home, right? And not work and not do anything. And so my life was just stuck. And so that's really where the story stemmed from, that I did not live in the fullness of life. And so I believe it was God that spoke it to me. He's like, it's
amen.
time for you to live on purpose. Like you have to be
Amen.
intentional. So for a long time, I was stuck and I got tired of asking people. And one day, God just said, hey, there's solutions for people like you. There are things that you can utilize to get you from A to B. And so I began to look into different types
Amen.
of transportation, different things like that. And that's when my life began to actually move. And so live on purpose literally stemmed from my own life
Wow.
story.
Wow, that is so powerful. So many things that you said, and I'm always a person of just like connecting those spiritual nuggets, I think. And there were so many things that you said that kind of brought me to like a spiritual mindset where you talked about like your vision. And I introduced you as she's a visionary of
Yes.
not knowing that, vision was one of those areas that, that was a defect, if you will,
Mhm.
when you were born, but to see how God can give us new vision, right? And take
Right.
vision, like take our understanding of what vision means
Right.
and impart it in something greater. So I always love that when, words that we are familiar with become inspirations in other areas. So vision is certainly one of those words that when I think about, being a woman of faith, we talk about walking by faith, not by sight, all those things that come with, with vision. So it's really powerful that that's a part of your testimony. So how did you go from, even in that, before I even go to how did you go from, but even in that, I want my the listeners to understand as well is how you felt like you were stuck. And then God said, no, get up and move on purpose. And then you finding those areas where you felt stuck, you finding ways to get unstuck. So, you felt like, okay, I don't drive, but there are other things that you can do to get around. You could like Uber and all these other new things that we have now. So I think some people will hear that and say, it feels stuck and not have even thought about how do I augment my own life and underpin those areas where I feel like I'm stuck and put other things in place. So I didn't want people to miss that. So I wanted to point back to that. But I also want to learn more about how you went from that to now having this ministry, where you're helping other women.
Yeah. So for me, I really had to work on my mindset. Like I really
Yes.
had to work on how I viewed my life, how I looked at my life. And, we can always find the issue. We can always
Oh
find
my
the
gosh.
problem. But I really had to focus on the solution because looking at the problem is not anything. It's just causing you to complain
Exactly.
and even be more stuck, become more stuck in that in your thoughts. And so that's really where it is. That's really where you have to shift is in your mindset. And so for
Yes.
me, I had to focus in on like personal development. Like I didn't think personal development was important. Um,
Mm,
you go through life, through school. I've gone through college, all of the things, right? I have
right.
a degree and all of that. And so um, you don't think that you really have to do much to enhance your life or just really enhance the way that you think, the way that you see life. And so when I really started to surround myself with people that were doing more than me, they began to inspire me. When I began to focus in on personal development, it began to shift my mind. I started to look at my life differently and movement just began to happen. And so I started to challenge myself more and more to wake up to who Kelly is, because the reality is that everything how God created me, how he fashioned me. All
Yes.
of this has to do with my purpose. It's who I am. The result of who I am is my purpose. And so once I started to, God had to really teach me how to love me as well too,
Mm,
because a lot of it, I used to be kind of mad at God, like, why did you create me this way? Why do I have to deal with this? I remember being in middle school, and I was in an art class. And so one of the things that would cause me to feel stuck or feel like I can't do it, or I'm not like everybody else. We were in an art class, and the art teacher said, hey, I want you guys to pick out the colors that you guys want to use. We're getting ready to paint something. I don't even remember what we were about to paint. But that's one of those areas that would cause me to have fear and be
right.
afraid, like, because I don't see colors. And
Right.
so I was like, oh my gosh. And so I wanted to escape that moment. So I went and asked her, hey, can I go to the restroom? And so my plan was to go to the restroom and never return,
Oh,
right? So I remember being in the bathroom in one of the stalls, and I just began to cry, like, God, why did you create me this way? Why am I this way? And I remember saying, well, I'm going to see if my mom will get me out of this class. I don't even want to be in this class. But it's moments like that that will cause us to be stuck and cause us to feel like we're not good enough, that we're not worthy enough. But God literally had to teach me how to love me for me,
yes.
because he specifically designed me the way
Yes.
that he designed me, and everything that I need and everything that I am to be in this world, he's going to provide for me. And so I had to get in that mindset. So changing my mindset, I had to start reading more. I
Amen.
had to start listening to different things that was going to motivate who I was, that was going to inspire the dreams and the visions and the things that he's put on the inside of me. And so I really had to hone in on that personal development. And so that's so important.
Yes.
Live on purpose is literally being intentional about your life. And so I had to learn how to do that.
I love it so much that you said. I'm like taking notes, and I have to remind myself that, hey, you get to listen to this over and over again. But I'm
Yeah.
always like, you're saying so many great things, and I'm like taking notes. But I love that, such a testimony that you said that God had to teach you to, one, love yourself, and then it was like once you learn to love yourself, then you recognize that all the things that made up Kelly Dione Butler,
Mhm.
her purpose was in that. And I
Yeah.
think, again, I don't want people to miss this, but I think a lot of times when we fail to love ourselves exactly as we are, then we can miss what that purpose is, what our true purpose is. Not only because we're focused on all the other things, right? The things that we feel like are insecurities or vulnerabilities or whatever, or indeficiencies or whatever, or
Mhm.
deficiencies rather. We're so focused on that we don't even think that there is purpose in us, right? We don't even realize that despite all of that, God has something for us to
Right.
do, right? That is going to be beyond ourselves and beyond our own understanding. So I know, for me, as you know, starting girlfriend therapy, it was something when God said girlfriend therapy conference. Like, it was one thing,
Mhm.
oh, get some women together and have a gathering at your house. But when God said girlfriend therapy conference, that was something I had never considered, had no idea what that was. But then when he said, and it is faith based, right, and it's Holy Spirit led, so he started putting all these other things, and it was super intimidating for me. So to share with us, like, how God first said, empower her conference, or empower her, and then empower her conference. Like, what came first, right? Or was
Yeah,
it
that's
all a conference from the beginning?
no, it actually was not a conference from the beginning. I believe the first thing I did was start a Facebook group. That was
Amen.
the first thing I did. And then I started doing um, these girl chats. I started doing girl chats. And so when I first started doing the girl chats, um, it was kind of intimidating because, when you first started, then you don't know if people are going to come, like who's going to come, are they
Yeah.
going to be in it? And so I remember hosting it, and the first maybe two or three times, nobody came. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so
Oh,
discouraged and so like,
wow.
I can't believe nobody came and all of that. But I kept being consistent. I kept showing up every time, no
Yeah.
matter if it was just me, I started inviting my niece, and so she started coming. So it was just me and her sometimes, but I
Amen.
stayed consistent. And then women started to come in, women started to show up, and women started to be blessed by it. And once that grew, then I went into the Empower Her conference. Like, it was always my dream to do a conference. I didn't know even what that looked like, how to do it, any of.
Right.
But once I started it, I knew that it was a part of my purpose, was to empower
Wow.
women, to help them discover them, and really just creating an environment where women can learn who they are and get tools and get things that they need, get connect to resources, be able to
Right.
network with different people, because that's the thing that changed me, was getting in different environments that could help me. That
Exactly.
was the main thing about me feeling stuck, is that I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to get unstuck. I didn't know the first thing, like if I wanted to start a business, I didn't know how to do it. And so getting in different environments is what helped me. Networking with different people is what helped me. And so I wanted to create an environment or so women could come, those that didn't know what to do or how to do it or where to start, they could
Right.
come in a room and network and get resources, be taught and be empowered and all of that. And so
I love that.
that's really where it all happened.
I love that. So I'm going to come back to, having because that's important as well. But in fact, I'll start there. I have to keep working my way through the conversation. So you said you started the Facebook group and nobody showed up. What, I guess, what encouraged you to for you to continue to show up? Because for some people, that would have been enough to say, okay, nope, that wasn't what it's supposed to be, right? Because, and I always try to, because a lot of times, you don't know who's going to show up. God gives you this vision and it's like, do this. And you're like, okay. And you're obedient and you start moving in a direction that, God has called you to. And then you get there. And that has like continued to be my nightmare. We did 9 conferences under Girlfriend Therapy. We were going into our 10th annual conference before, when the pandemic hit. But every year I would be like, what if nobody is there? And God, and everything we do under Girlfriend Therapy is free of charge. So I'm preparing for, God say 300 women. I'm preparing for 300 women. And it's like, okay, 300 women, you need a venue space to fit 300. That costs, we always give out gifts that, so there was this vision that came with a budget or a bill, if you will, or a cost. I won't say a bill, came with a cost. But every year you're kind of like, okay, what if nobody shows up? Or what if, so I share that to say a lot of times people think they're going to start something and, that fear is always there, the fear of nobody showing up. But you still do it out of obedience and just knowing that that's what your purpose to do and what you've been called to do. So what was it that compelled you? Like the first month you did it, or the first time you did it, no one was there. The second time you did it when nobody was there. What compelled you to do it like that third time, having the experience of the first and the second time?
Yeah, I think consistency is everything.
Amen.
So for me, when I'm I don't know really how to explain this, but for me, when I see a vision of something, I want to see it to its end. You know what I'm
Amen.
saying? And so when God shows me something, I just keep showing up until I see the fullness of that
I
thing.
love that.
Because I'm the type of person that if I could see something so clear, it's got to happen.
Yes, I
It's
love
got to
that.
happen. And so really just again around people that would encourage you. I had my pastors in there speaking life into me, and then
Amen.
I started connecting. I really had to learn how to connect with people in the beginning stages as well too. And so connecting to more people actually drew more people. And so your connectivity to other people, partnership with other people, and things like that. That's when it really began to grow and really began to flourish, and me being able to connect to more women. So I connected to, I can't even remember what that thing, this group thing was called, but it was some type of group thing that you can go in. It was like a community thing, and you could start a group. And it would, like, different people would come and be a part of it. I can't remember what it was called, but it's something like that. It was like a connection type thing. And that's what really drew people or drew women into it. And I just stayed consistent on Facebook. doing lives was always scary for me as well too. And so in the beginning, I didn't like doing that, but I found that the more you show up and show your
Yeah.
face, the more people will attach to what you're doing as well too.
Amen. I love that. And it's funny because as I'm going into 2023, yeah, I'm calling this the year of partnerships. So
Yes.
certainly looking for, because for me, girlfriend therapy was always, it wasn't affiliated with the church, you know, it was just this ministry that God had given me. And so I was always really careful with it and still am. And
Yeah.
so the idea of partnerships always, you know, I would start kind of going down the path of trying to partner with someone, and their vision was always a little bit different. And so then it was kind of like, you know, I was always just, I didn't want to um, confuse what girlfriend therapy is. So even doing something like this, you know, this year of conversations, you know, there was a lot of learning for me because
Mhm.
I have this vision of what girlfriend therapy is, and it is very solid in that. But then it's like, okay, but then how do I have social political conversations in this space? How do I have, but understanding that it is about empowering, educating, you know, encouraging all those things, understanding that it is about all of that, that we all in our, you know, humanity, you know, we engage in social political activity every day. So I had to create space for that. Um, but I share all that to say that the partnership is a really key piece. And I love how you said that once you were able to partner with people, then it helped it to flourish and helped it to grow.
Mhm.
And so this year, my goal for girlfriend therapy is to continue, is to, I guess, leverage partnerships a little bit more. So what were some of the first partnerships that you, partnerships that you connected with?
Well, I started reaching out to people that already had a platform. That was number one for me, because I was not known in the, well, I wouldn't say that I wasn't known in the event space or conference space or anything like that. But I've served in church, and so I've hosted things and I've put on things and things like that. But I started to reach out to people that already had a platform, and so I began to connect with them and say, "Hey, would you come and be a part of my girl chat? Will you come and speak?" So I connected with people that did makeup. I connected with people that did um, fashion, different things like that. People that had their own organizations,
Right.
people that, were already out there doing their thing. And so once I started connecting to those people, then they drew people in. And
Exactly.
that's when people uh, became aware of who Kelly Dione Butler was.
Yeah, I love that so much. Again, that's like such a powerful approach as well, because what I'm hearing is through like the work that you're doing, you know, your Empower Her is empowering people through networking,
Mm-hmm.
which is so key. Um, but it's because even as you were talking about, I reached out with people that already have a platform. I realized for me, I find that a lot of times the people that do have platforms, they're always like, well, who are you and what are you bringing to what I'm doing? Did you run into any of that or?
I didn't actually. They were
Amen.
always so excited to be a part of it. And
Amen.
like I even said this at my last conference because my pastor, he would always say to me, like, I don't know how you pull this stuff off because you bring people in that
Yes.
most times would say no to other people. And so
Amen.
I told them, I said, sometimes I don't know how I do this either, but they always say yes. They're always
Amen.
excited about coming. And so I think it's those ordered steps by God.
Yes.
It's been perfect. It was destined for it to happen. And one thing that I've learned just over the time that I've done this, because I think the Empower Her conference may be on its fourth year. I know the Purpose Encounter is the fourth year as well. And so one thing that I've noticed is that even though these people have their own platform, they would come into these conferences and they would get empowered and they would get
Amen.
restored and they would, get that they need as well. And so I thank God, for that opportunity to be able to create in such a way that not only people that are already out there doing their thing,
Yes.
already have a platform, already have people following them, they can come in and get poured into as well. And so
Amen. I love it. No, that's really, I think that's an important point as well, is that even though if you're working in a particular space, like there's just through the power of networking, there's always something for you to get and for you to learn and for you to grow.
yeah.
So that's really encouraging as well. So with the Empower Her conference. You said this is the fourth year, and
Mm-hmm.
then the empowerment, the purpose encounter
Mm-hmm.
is the fourth year as well. What's the difference between the two, or what is the, I guess, the work of the two?
Well, and the Empower Her conference is, of course, just for women. And then
Okay.
a purpose encounter, we invite men into that one as well.
Okay.
And so the Empower Her conference is really going to be that personal development conference. So we're going to first focus all things you, all things her. And so I think the last one we had was the revival of her. So it was time for women to come alive in who they are, who they've been destined to be, who they've been created to be. And so we had women come in and pour into them in the different capacities of ministry, entrepreneurship, all of those things. The purpose encounter is more, I mean, which I do it in both of them, but the purpose encounter is more your spiritual conference. And
Okay.
so I believe for me, if you want to encounter purpose, when you encounter God, you've encountered purpose. And
Amen.
so the purpose encounter is literally these moments that you get to encounter the very presence of God, and He drops these downloads, and He gives you strategy, and He gives you tools and all of the things that you need to walk in your purpose. And so this year it was absolutely phenomenal. Like I
Amen.
was left speechless of just the encounters. Like I told them, like, this conference, this particular one, literally it confirmed everything that the purpose encounter was to be. And so when the purpose encounter started, I'll give this short story behind that.
Yeah,
The purpose
absolutely.
encounter, I was writing a post on Instagram, and I don't even remember what the post was, because on Instagram you got to post a picture and all of that. And so I was posting it, and somehow I started hashtagging purpose encounter, and
Mm,
something lit up in me, and it like stirred me, and I was just like,
wow.
oh, for some reason God said hold on to that. And
Yeah.
so I did, and that's how it became the purpose encounter. Of course, I didn't know what it was going to be, how it was going to do whatever it was going to do. I had no idea. But the first time I did the purpose encounter, I knew that it was something special that God was going to use in long term. And so the purpose encounter is just that special place that people can come and get strategy, that they can come and encounter themselves and encounter God and encounter the things that God wants to do, and the purposes and plans that He has for them more so than anything.
Amen. I love that. I love how, when God speaks, it's just something you think is just, this benign thing. Oh, hashtag,
Right.
purpose encounter. And then it's just like,
Yeah.
and it clicks on.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the Empower Her conference, you said in July, in the
Right. Mm-hmm.
purpose encounter in September,
November. Mm-hmm.
November.
Mm-hmm.
So you just finished this year's conferences, getting ready for 2023. Um, you have a book coming out. I'm excited to learn more about that. Tell us a little bit about like how that came to be. And
Yes. So I was about to say the power of her. The I'm getting tongue tied, but yes, it's called the power of her. And so
yes.
2020, we were all in a pandemic. We know this, right? And so, but really it started in 2019 is when I really started to struggle with myself and where I was in my life. And so I I like to say it like this, like I came to the end of me, where I
Mm,
felt like I didn't know who I was. I felt really tired of where I was at because I was in ministry, full-time ministry, serving in the church as an executive pastor. And so I became really tired. I became at this point where I just didn't want to do this anymore, because as an executive pastor, you're taking hits, you're taking the way people want to talk to you, the different things, people walk away from the church, you're trying to fight for the church, all of these different things. And so I came
yes.
to this point where I was just really tired. And for a long time, I battled with depression. And so a lot of people didn't know that I was even battling with depression like a whole year in 2019. And really
Wow.
it probably was a lot longer than that. But I was
Right.
like in, I would say, functional depression, because I would go out and I was full of life, but I would come home and be in a low, dark place. And so I really in 2019 began to struggle. And so 2020, God literally shut down the world, and that really saved my life, because I needed to get alone with myself and really be able to relax and find out what it was that Kelly wanted to do. And so my church was also going through a transition as well. And so I was separated from this position. And so this position, I felt like, really gave me my identity. It really gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of who I was and what I was supposed to do. And all of a sudden, I felt like it was ripped away from me, right? And so now I'm still showing up to church and still doing my thing, but I was no longer serving in this capacity, which was great because I needed to step back. But we all know that once we're used to doing something, this is the norm for us, we start to feel like it's been ripped away from us. We start to feel like, that we just feel uncomfortable. Like it's just not a great place to be in. We start to get in our feelings, just all of the things, right? And so we don't think that because we were done with it, right? In 2019, we were done. But when it's taken away from us, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did me like this, all this, right? And so I just began to I would say it like this: God really forced me into a place of healing. And so I've been through a lot. Like I lost my mom in 2019. I never really faced that. I never went to counseling or therapy or any of those things. I lost my brother, my oldest brother, in 2017, and that was probably the most traumatic thing I ever went through, because I went into the hospital with him, and watched him transition from this thing. And so I remember just not being able to sleep at night, was tormented for days, just in that thought process of him losing his life. And it wasn't expected. It was unexpected. It was like this random thing that just happened, and now he's gone, right? And so I went through all of those things, and I never really took time to heal. Like for the most part, what we do is we bury things on the inside of us that hurt us. We keep burying it and burying it. And so for me, God literally forced me into a place of healing. He told me that it's time for you to rediscover you. It's time for you to rediscover her, right? And so her is literally an acronym that says healed, empowered, and revived. And so I went through this process of that I had to heal in order to find me. And once I found me, God had to empower me. And once he empowered me, he then caused me to come alive again in my purpose. And so that's really what the power of her is all about. It's really me finding my identity and purpose. Because I never thought, number one, that I would be looking for me again, because I felt like I knew what I was doing. And I'm not saying that season of my life was not a part of my purpose, because it was. But I'm saying that I had to rediscover the authentic Kelly. I had to rediscover the giftings and really get in my lane of who I was, and so that I could be more effective in my walk and in what God has called me to do. And so that's really what the power of her is all about, is helping women know that you have an authentic identity, and you have an authentic purpose, and getting comfortable in your own skin to be able to walk in the power of who you are. And so that's really what it's about.
I love that so much. What a beautiful testimony, first of all. And so much that you're saying I can completely 1,000,000% identify with. But I love where you said that, her stands for healing, empowering, and reviving. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I think that is I'll say, as a woman of a certain age, and I'm a little older than you, but I would tell you, I think that is a continuous cycle in our lives. So I love how you capped it with, not to say that what happened before wasn't a part of your purpose and a part of your testimony, because it very much is. And I think where you are now is just another part of your purpose, a part of your testimony, even developing all the more. And then, it continues, because it really is just layers and levels to it. I always tell people that you have to learn to live the long game, or play the long game of life. And when you think that, oh, I've arrived, then you really sometimes short sight yourself, because you think, oh no, I'm already here. And it's like, no, understanding that all of it is a part of that continuous process of healing, being empowered, and reviving, or being a revival, right? Is always that continuous thing that's happening, is that you're constantly healing, you're constantly being re-empowered, and you're constantly being revitalized. And so if you can just, take that with you, I think going into that next season of healing, empowering, revitalizing, you'll get the rhythm. Like, okay, this is what it is. Like, this is a part of that whole life process. But that's a beautiful testimony to share as well. And I think other people that's listening will hear that and be able to take that with them as well. And so, is that what compelled you to start writing your book in 2020? Just kind of coming out of that season of.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a God thing. I actually started writing it in 21. Um, I came because literally 2020, I went through that process for an entire year. And when I tell you I cried an entire year, I really didn't think that I was going to make it out of it, to be honest. And so it was some weighty pain that I walked through, because I had to I went through therapy, actually, and I wasn't a therapy person, to be honest. Like, I was not like this counseling, let me go to counseling, because we were always raised that, you keep, things that happen with
don't tell people your business, right?
Right, you don't tell people your business. So that's how we were raised. And so going to talk to someone was just out of the question. But literally, when I tell you that's really what saved my life, that it's just that. It saved my life. Therapy saved me. And so for me, because I carry, so much, not even just in ministry, but just in my own personal life, I had buried so much stuff on the inside of me, and I had carried the weight of ministry. Just being able to talk that out with somebody that I could trust, and somebody that wouldn't take that somewhere else. And that was the struggles, that even just in ministry, I had nobody to talk to about it, because I wasn't that type of person. I covered my pastors. I didn't, go and talk about the church and talk about other leaders or I didn't do that with, because I really held that as, this thing that we don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we do. And so to be able to go and talk to a therapist or talk to a counselor, and they let me, unload all that stuff, it was so freeing, and it gave me my voice back. It gave me my identity back. It gave me who God created me to be. It all came in full circle. Who I've been destined to be. And so I'm so grateful. And so if I could say anything to the people that are listening, go get you some help.
Yes. And I think it's so important, Kelly. I mean, you are dropping like nuggets upon nuggets. It's so important, because here we think that a lot of times when we're in ministry, and to say that therapy saved my life, people will look at that and say, well, how is that so? Like, you're a minister. And it's like, because you don't realize. And when I say you, I mean the people that's out there looking at you as, oh, she's Kelly the minister. They don't realize that, no, I'm still human, and there are still things that I'm carrying that I don't find, I can't see a safe place to put them down. And so the counseling is that safe place to put it down, because if you share it with someone else, then they're going to share it with somebody else. Oh, Minister Kelly said, and it becomes something else. And I think people don't realize that as ministers, as leaders in the faith, there are things that we struggle with. There are things that we have questions about. And, there may be safe people like our pastors or our, brothers and sisters in the faith that we can have some of those hard conversations with. But there are times where it's like, I need an objective, person to just hear what I'm saying. And like you said, then it clears the way for you to be able to think more clearly, for you to be able to be more stable and steady in your thinking, in your words, right? And then also for you to be able to speak more clearly. So I think I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that's another point I don't want people to miss, is that even though you're in leadership, you're in ministry, that you still need that safe place to be able to say what you need to say, and then get that real-time feedback.
Right.
So I'm so glad you shared that. And I didn't mean to interrupt, your story, but I wanted to point that out because that was a
No, you're
powerful
fine.
point. Yeah.
I would say this too is that even though we have pastors, you have to know their role in your life as well too,
Mm,
because we can say, "Oh, I can just go talk to my pastor." Well, they're not counselors and they're not therapists.
amen.
And
Amen.
so we have to understand that who they are, who they are in your life. They're there to
Amen.
pastor you, they're there to shepherd you, things like that. But you have to separate and say,
Mm,
I need a therapist. And it's
amen.
okay to have Jesus in therapy, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so find that therapist rather that fits you. I had to search, to
Yeah.
find that person that fits me. And so I had a spiritual therapist, but they worked hand in hand, being able to help me through where I was at. And so just
Amen.
knowing the role that your pastors play and even your spiritual leaders, just knowing what part they play in your life.
No, that's important too.
Mhm.
That's really important. So it was like after you kind of start going through the therapy and kind of getting back to your voice, I imagine this is where the desire to write a book, or was it like God called you and said, okay, now write, or how did that come about?
Well, well, what happened was I have this call for the young woman, that woman that's like
Mm.
18 to maybe
Amen.
25, 28 years old. And so I started getting this desire to start a mentorship with this age group. And so I put it out there, I believe in 2021, I believe it was. And I put it out there and I was like, I want to do this. I feel like I'm really called to this. And so I started that. And I had a group of ladies that actually signed up for it. And I walked through this mentorship with them. And it literally was my process of 2020. Like everything that I went through, like I literally put that in a mentorship and began to mentor these women. And so if I can say this, one thing that God showed me is that don't focus on the problem, but on the strategy of that season that you're going through. And so when you're going through these rough seasons, these tough seasons, don't complain about it. Don't, be looking at it in all these kind of ways, but begin to take notes, because those notes are
Amen.
going to eventually turn into something that you can help someone else out. Learn the strategy, learn the tools that's happening as you're walking through those storms and walking through those hard times, because God is showing and teaching you something in
Yeah.
the midst of that. And so I literally was able to take 2020 and put it in a mentorship. And so once I completed that mentorship, that's when God said, right. And
Amen.
so then I began to write my story and attach it to the tools that came along with that mentorship. And so it became the power of her.
Ah, I love it. You're ministering to me too, because I'm like, take notes while you're in in going through the process. It's really cool because in fact, the podcast that released today, I was talking with a young lady and she said something which is similar to what you just said, which is once you once you understand the principles, just apply the principles. And so for you, it's like that strategy. Once you understand, okay, I'm in this season, take notes, because the notes that I'm taking in this season is purpose for, for someone else who may go through this a similar season. So just take the notes, document it, and then start connecting the strategy and the tools for something that that's useful and beneficial for somebody else. I love that so much. That's uh that's wisdom.
Yeah.
That's wisdom. And it's such a great testament. I can't wait to get your book. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to support it in that way. But I know time is always getting away from us so quickly. Is there something that you want to share, like maybe with our listening audience? I know you said that you're called to just like young women still trying to find their purpose, but I'll tell you, as someone who ministers a lot to the older generation of women, a lot of them are still trying to find their purpose as well. So is there something that you want to share with women at all walks of life, that they can just take with them, a starting point or something that they can just take with them?
Yes, I would love to say that it's never too late to
Amen.
discover or to rediscover her. You
Amen.
know, there's a part of you that you have that has not been revealed yet. And so the rediscovery process, and as you said, earlier, that this is a continual process. It doesn't matter the age. You could be a teenager, you could be the young woman, you could be the seasoned woman, right? You can be that, but going through this process of discovering who you are right now in this season of your life is so powerful. And just to know that there's power that's working on the inside of you, and that same power is for you to use to change the world. And so who you are, take that intentional time, live on purpose, right? Take that intentional time and discover who you are and walk in the power of who you are.
Amen. Amen. This was such a pleasure. I am so grateful. I met you. It must have been, I don't know, maybe over 10 years ago. I was supporting Pastor Tori in his first book. And I got to meet you then and work with you as we were preparing for his book release and all this. And we kind of stayed connected via social media. But I have absolutely enjoyed watching you continue to grow, and seeing all the things that God is doing in your life and all the doors that he's opening on, for you to do ministry and for you to touch the lives of other women. I pray God's best blessings just continue to be upon you in the work that you're doing. I'll pray that you continue to stay encouraged in the work that you're doing. Take those breaks when you need to.
Absolutely.
Stay connected, and set those boundaries as well. But just continue to allow God to just work through you in a mighty way that he already is. And everything that you pour out, I just pray that he just pours back into you 100-fold, that you never feel depleted or never feel lost or never feel like you've missed or lost anything. But that you continue to recognize that it is all for God's glory, for your growth and for your purpose. So thank you so much, Miss Kelly Dione Butler, for joining us today for our 50th conversation. This was such a treat and such a joy. And I want to encourage all the listeners, definitely follow her on social media. I will have all her contact stuff. Go to her website, kellybutler.org, to follow her, to learn more about all the amazing stuff that she's doing. If you're in the Oklahoma City area, definitely connect with her, connect with some of the conferences that she's having, seeing how you can support. If you're not in that area, definitely still see how you can support. Follow her, get her book once it's released. Is it released yet? I know you're having your book release coming up. Is it?
Yes. No, it's not released yet. Probably won't release till January. So.
Okay, so we'll definitely keep an eye out. And as soon as I know, you guys will know, I'll share it on my social media platforms as well. But thank you again so much for just sharing yourself and sharing your wisdom with our listeners. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, God's blessings to you as you prepare for the new year. Listen to this message. I think there are some nuggets that you can take to help you prepare for the new year and to be successful in the new year. So blessings to you all. And until next time, blessings.
Okay.